G'day, guys. We can't get so much out of this interview, so we're going to keep going. This is Harper from Australia, who's a creator, who's an artist, who's an author, and he's been doing some fantastic work on himself. If you didn't see part 1 and 2, you better get on it, because he tells you how he became the person he is right now, and we're going to talk about his spiritual awakening in this chapter. Okay, in this part, it's been a wonderful interview. He's given us an outlay of a lot of stuff that's happened about his past relationships, and he is a survivor of abuse in a lot of ways. But now we're going to find out how he took that and made it into a superpower. Harper, part 3. Over to you about your spiritual awakening, my friend.
Yep. Thank you. So, as I said, like my first 2 books were called Human Interaction. First one, Human Interaction Part 1, Boy of Abuse. Second, Human Interaction Part 2, Illegitimate Orphan.
Can I get those names again, please, mate? I'll get them on. I'll put them on this part here. What was that one called, this, my friend?
So the first one is Human Interaction Part 1. The subtitle is Boy of Abuse.
Interaction Part 1, Boy of Abuse. Yep.
And the second one is Human Interaction Part 2.
Yep.
Illegitimate Orphan, which is kind of a play on words, not a real orphan.
I get it. Where can we find those pictures, mate, so we can get them up on the book? Get them up on there.
You can get them on Amazon or on my Stan store. If you go to my TikTok, Harper Black Author on TikTok, I've got a Stan store. We can actually buy a digital copy for next to nothing because we don't have to actually pay Amazon.
No worries. Let's get that happening. That's on TikTok. Right. Tell us a little about your spiritual awakening, my friend. I'll get those books up on our on this episode here, so everyone can see where to get them from.
Awesome. Thank you. So I've actually started writing a 4th book around my spiritual awakening, doing the same sort of thing that I did with Human Interaction, where taking characters and sort of adding the fiction into real life, like stories.
Yep.
So as I've said previously, like I became a Christian. I definitely always believed in the spiritual realm. I grew up in a very religious household. I stopped going to church a number of years ago, and I sort of cut off a lot of that aspect. And so in March this year, I was over visiting a friend in Adelaide, and my mum texted me saying, your uncle's had a massive heart attack. He's in hospital in Adelaide. And he was only 53, only a couple of years older than me. And we went to the same primary school, and we grew up together. And he chose a very different path. And he was actually one of the main reasons I wanted to try and get my life back together. I'd looked at what he was doing in his life, and like, I don't want to turn out like that. But still, like, lovely, caring person, like always great. And I called my mum. I said, I'm actually in Adelaide at the moment.
All right.
And mum was like, what are you doing there? I said, I'm visiting a friend. And I said, oh, and she's like, oh, he's in intensive care. They don't think he's going to make it much longer. And I said, look, I'll drive to the hospital now, and I'll FaceTime you and your siblings. So she's got 6 siblings. FaceTime them all and some of the cousins and things, so they could say a goodbye over FaceTime. And so I did that, and as I was standing there, like there was another woman that came in that was one of his friends after sort of an hour or so, and like I talked to the doctors and I said, look, I've spoken to all the family. We think it's best to turn off all the life support and those sort of things, because we knew that's all that was keeping him alive. Was this life support. And so they're like, okay, we don't just unplug it, like we slowly turn a couple of things down and just see how
understand that.
So they turned some things down, and I said to my uncle, I said, look, it's okay. Like, he was always petrified of death. Everyone knew he was petrified of death, and he never wanted to die alone, ever. He literally had a conversation with one of my cousins 2 nights beforehand, and he's like, I just have this feeling I'm going to die, and I don't want to be alone. I'm not sure what to do. And she's like, oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. He did. But he wasn't alone, because by chance, I hadn't planned on being there. I decided 2 days beforehand that I was going to drive across to Adelaide to see one of my friend's shows, and it just so happened that I happened to be there. And as he was passing, I had the weirdest sensation. I could feel my grandfather on the left of me and my grandmother on the right of me.
Okay.
And like, I can actually feel them here. Like, this is weird. And so I leaned down to my uncle and I said, your mum and dad are here waiting for you. I said, you don't have to be scared. And then not only could I feel them, like sort of spiritually feel them, I literally felt them. And I know that I've talked in the past that I've had hallucinations. I know the difference between a hallucination and what this was. This is very different.
Right.
And then I looked down on my arm, and you could see an arm mark around my arm where my nana was standing. And I said to the woman sitting across from me, I said, can you see that? Because I'm like, surely someone can see that. And she's like, what is that? I'm like, my grandmother's here and my grandfather's there. And she just went,
and you were quite open about the situation too. Just said it how it was.
Yep. And she's like, that's weird. I'm like, I know. And so that's like, my uncle passed, and all I can say is, like, the room filled with the most immense joy I've ever felt in my life. Like, I felt when his spirit left his body, and it was like a party in there. And then the doctors came in like 30 seconds later, and they're like, oh, he's just passed. I'm like, I know. Like I could feel it. I'm like, I know exactly what's happening. And again, thinking, okay, that's really, really weird. And, I still had a lot of family stuff, talking to people and saying he's just passed and blah, blah, blah. All of that sort of thing. I had a lot of people to call, did all of that. And I was driving home, and I'm like, what a weird day. And next thing, like, I felt my uncle hop into the passenger seat of my car. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And it's very hard to explain to people that have never experienced it, because I wouldn't know how to take it if I hadn't experienced this.
Right.
Like, it was 1 minute it was just an empty passenger seat. And even though, like, physically, like, looking at it, it was still an empty passenger seat, it was like he just turned up in the passenger seat. And I'm like, oh, I know you're here. And it was like he was like thanking me, and I was just like, it's completely fine. I'm like, I was very happy to be there, all good, I'm happy. And so then he disappeared. Like, then the feeling, like the whatever it was.
So it happened at the time.
It
happened at the time. Then you had the feeling of this emotion, this joy, and then it just went finished.
Yeah,
it just sort of like it just went, okay, it's gone now. And okay, what happened there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what happened in the car as well. I could feel him in the car.
Okay.
And then I went back, and I told my friend, like, we went to their show. I told my friend, I said something weird happened, and one of his other friends was there that I'd never met before. They're both looking at me like a crazy person. And I'm just like, I can't explain this. Like, I literally cannot explain this. I don't know
what did they say.
On.
What did they say? Because when people, I mean, we're a bit more open to it these days, right? Because you can say, spiritual awakenings, and talk about spirits, and I mean, we went through the time of people playing with Ouija boards. We won't go there. Yeah. That's another conversation to have. But people weren't really open to it. They it's sort of like it was a bit of a fad. Oh, okay, Yeah, we can talk to spirits. Whereas we've had the experience, even watching Charmed back in the day, sort of opened my eyes to a lot of this stuff that does happen. But when it does happen, what are people saying to you? Because you look like you just go, "Oh God, this happened to me," and what do they say?
Some people said, "Oh, you know, like could it be part of your mental illness?" Like that's why I said no. There's a
That's
theory.
fair. I mean, they'll say it,
Yeah,
but we don't. I don't believe a bloody word of it. But anyway, I'll
yeah,
say you did have the experience straight up. I mean, as I said,
yeah.
and if you do watch Ira, my friend in Peru, you'll get a lot out of it, man. All this stuff she
Yeah.
talks about, eh?
Well, I had never watched spiritual stuff at all because one, we weren't allowed to like growing up because it
Oh,
was
of course,
evil.
because it was
Yeah,
of course, yeah. Well,
yeah. But
enough
I've
said.
since watched some of that stuff. Because I'm like I'm just in my trying to understand it, and I think this is probably where you saw as well. Like I didn't do a TikTok about it for a number of like I think about 10 days, and like I need to do a TikTok because I need help with this. Like I don't understand this. What happened? Because from there it got weirder. Like that night, not only like could I feel the presence of my grandmother, grandfather, and my uncle, they all came and stood around me in a field like that was Fringe Festival in Adelaide. I was sitting there on the phone to my cousin having a drink, and next thing they were standing around me and brought in two other people. And I'm like, I have five spirits standing around me now. I can see them. And I was like,
Wow.
I'm not sure what's going on. And anyway, that's a long story in itself. Then later that night, we got back to my friend's place, and they were like, they still weren't believing me. Like they were like, oh, you've had a hard day, like maybe you're just imagining things and everything. And we just finished having that conversation. I'm like, okay, I was like, yeah, maybe like it's been a full-on day. Like I didn't think I was that like emotionally affected, as in like that it would break me.
Yep.
Um, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get another drink. So I walked away from the table into the kitchen to get another drink. And as I walked out, there's my uncle sitting on the chair that I was sitting in, like mocking both of them, talking to each other, like with his legs crossed. He's like, like this. And then he looked at me and laughed.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm just like, that's exactly what he would do. And I'm just like, I'm not going to tell him that my uncle was just sitting mocking them. And then the next night, like I'm like, okay, I'm not going to talk about it more. The next night, the girl that I had just met, um, her grandmother came and stood behind her. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, all right, I know you think I'm crazy, but your grandmother is behind you.
You were pretty open about it too. You weren't shy, were you?
I had no idea what's happening. I'm just like, this is weird. Like, why am I seeing these things? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And she's like, I don't want to know anything. And then one of the other women there, and she's like, oh no, she's like, one of my friends like can see spirits. And then her dad came and stood behind her, and I'm like, oh, okay, your dad's now standing behind you. And she goes, what does he look like? And so I explained, and she's like, oh, okay, yeah, that could be my dad. And then her dad showed me a memory of her when she was younger. And I explained the room, I explained the conversation, and she's like, that happened. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like he just told it, like he showed it to me. And then he showed me another memory, which was the last conversation they had just before he died. And she's like, oh my goodness. And she goes, you're freaking me out. And then the other, like my friend and his friend are like, can you please stop talking about this? It's freaking us out. And I'm like, freaking you out? What do you think I'm feeling right now?
So what have you done? So what have you done in the future now that you've got this? It looks like you've got you've exposed a gifting within yourself.
Well,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, oh, I'm going to throw. Oh, yeah, I shouldn't really do it. Do you see it all the time? Like when you're around, say you and me are talking right now.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense of anyone around, or have you explored this gift at all?
No, I end up deliberately trying to cut it off. because it was happening too often. And so,
Okay.
yes, that's basically what was happening. Like it was just
Okay.
people would come in like all the time.
And how'd you
And
do? And how'd you do that? Did you? Because I know, obviously, how do you stop? How do you stop something like that? How did you do it?
so I went to, and I do apologize to people. I don't know what to call it. In my mind, I call it the hippy dippy shop. I was like,
The witchy
okay,
poo. I call it the witchy poo shop.
yeah, yeah. So one of my friends on TikTok, she reached out to me and she said, "Oh, look, if you want to know a little bit more, I might be able to help you a little bit." And I was like, "Cool." And so we got to talking, and she's like, "Okay, look, it is a lot." And she goes, "It's very odd for someone that's nearly 50 to experience this and have it all open up." And she said, "So I can understand that it's a lot to take on." Like, and she goes, "You need to do a number of things to try and protect yourself." Um, and she's like, "You need to get these crystals, you need to get these things." And like, I've never ever done anything like that, like sage and Palo Alto sticks and
Yeah.
things, like never
Palo
done
Santo.
anything like
Yeah.
that. Oh, Palo Santo, that's it.
Yeah.
Um, See, I'm still not good at it because I had no idea what was going on.
Just like, mate, all you've got to do is light it, and the spirits take it. So it's like
Yeah,
all I'll say with my experience with because I have a big affiliation with the First Nations of the American Indians and stuff. But that's been most of my that's my first past life. Plus, a lot of my guides are American Indian, other than my auntie
yeah,
and probably my uncle, I think.
yeah,
And a lot of things. It's really weird that you say you channel that. I've come into a point where I've got my friends up here, and when I go up on stage when I play, I actually call my mate and go, "You want to come and you want to come on with me and give me a hand?"
yeah,
And I can call in the spirits of whatever. I do that and to see how it goes. So I know I've got something there. Like
yeah.
there's a reason why I've got all these pictures up of my heroes that are there and my friends who have passed on. And I go, listen, I might need your help, mate. And they come good.
Oh,
It's a remember we are beings of the earth, mate. This is what we're gonna remember.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I like in the short period of time that I mean, I've had a couple of little experiences since I deliberately tried to cut it off. Like I
Yep.
learned how to stop it. I was taken to a past life, like physically.
Yep.
Like it was like I smell, touch again, I like it all happened right in front of my eyes, like, and I was in the body of that woman, who was literally being taken to be killed. Um, I One of the other weird things was one of my friends told me I need to ground myself. And she goes, I know that it's probably hard to clear your mind. And she goes, so just light a candle, set an intention. And I was like, what's an intention? And she's like, what do you actually want out of it? I'm like, I don't know.
What's your
Story.
result? Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, maybe just for clarity, like what's your biggest issue? And so and she goes, just light the candle, say what your biggest issue is and what you want to do in a positive way. And she goes, if anyone can turn a negative into a positive, you can. And she goes, and then
I've
just start
noticed
writing
that.
stuff down. Yeah. So this was like my first experience with lighting the candle. I'm like, oh, okay, like I just want to know if this is real. Like, that's all I want. Like, am I going completely nuts or is this real? Even though I'd had a number of experiences by this stage that, I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is real. And so I started writing stuff down and 10 kept on coming to me. And I'm like, what? Like literally my mind goes 100 miles an hour with like lots and lots in it. But it all went quiet and all I kept getting was 10, 10, 10, 10. And I'm like, all right, because I wasn't writing it down. And I was just like, all right, fine, I'll write down 10. Like, so I
And did
wrote
you?
down.
And what was the significance of the 10?
So it went through and then like said it like the voices sort of said a couple of things. And I still but it kept on going back to 10. And I'm just like, why does it keep going back to 10? So every time I went back, I wrote down 10. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna draw a picture. So because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I'm gonna draw a picture because I want to get rid of these words. And so I did a circle, And then I did like all these 10 sort of spokes off it, and then like circles around that. And then there was me, and then I wrote me in the middle.
Yep.
And then the 10 seemed to go away.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, well that's maybe like, I'm like, but still, what does the 10 mean? What 10 what? Nothing. No more 10s. Anyway, so I called my friend that had told me to do this, and I said, okay, I've just done this. Yeah, and I explained what I've just explained now. And she goes, do you know what 10 means in numerology? I was like, no. And she goes, 10 is like the end of things. It's the start of something new.
That's right. It's the first thing I thought.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay. And then I told her about the picture, and she goes, I think I know what you're describing. Can I send you a picture of the Wheel of Fortune tarot card? And I was like, okay. Because I mean, she also asked, do you know anything about tarot? I'm like, no. And she sent me the picture, and I just start laughing my head off. And I said, I'm going to send you the picture of what I've drawn. I drew the Wheel of Fortune tarot card.
Ah, of course you did. So you get to this point in your life, right? Where are you? You've got your 2 books, which are fantastic. You're writing a fourth book. Is that correct?
Fourth book, yeah.
Right. You've walked
of
through
this
spirit.
experience.
Right. So this is where the experience comes in. Now,
yeah.
Where do you feel you're moving to? I mean, we don't force. We go with flow. Aaron Doherty said, don't put too much importance. Just go with it. We go with the flow with when we're actually through this into this spiritual realm, I guess, in this some way. We've got to go with where are you going? Where do you think you're going?
So I definitely still am. I still feel like I'm in that wheel turning part.
Okay. Still finding yourself. You're finding these gifts and moving on. Yep. Have you found what I'm asking, is there a purpose? You found a purpose or anything within? I mean, it's obvious for what the stuff you've gone through and what you're doing. You're telling your story and getting people aware of what's happening. But then you've got your second part, which you're giving this is why this happened to me, and this is the great gift that gave me. But I'm still trying to find that purpose to get in there. Is that be fair to say? Would that be way to put it?
Yeah. And so as I said, like that epiphany that I had, which it probably was, like, as I said, I think that was the start of it. Like before my uncle dying kickstarted, like just literally kickstarted a lot. But that thought I had while I was gardening, like that I had to go onto TikTok, like I had to, because the next
you didn't question it. You didn't question it, did you? You just went and did it.
Yeah, because like I was told, like it was like this little voice said, like, you need to go onto TikTok and start telling your stories, because your life is about to completely transform. Over the next year, your life is going to completely transform. And I was just like, okay. And I told my neighbor about it, and she's like, well, do it. I'm like, I don't want to be filmed. And she goes, well, do it anyway. I was like, okay.
Not if you went, well, you're getting interviewed. You've been on an interview for nearly 2 hours here.
Yeah, exactly. You're pretty much better at it now.
Well, you've done a really good job. So we're about to finish up here. We've got about 5 or so minutes to go. About 7 minutes to go. So we've had a wonderful chat. You've talked about your life. Now you've gone into this spiritual awakening. Where are you going now? You're telling your story, which is great. This is how we connected. It's awesome. That's how I saw you. I'm going, this guy's got to get interviewed. And it's been a wonderful interview. You've written a few books with your experiences, which is you're transferring that into that creative.
Yep.
Where do we see Harper Black right now and tomorrow? Not too far ahead, but tomorrow. Where's your head at right now?
I want to continue with the TikToks, because I do feel like, just even the random stories, I think sometimes help people. I think that's my main aim. One of the words, one of the things while I was doing the grounding, I did the grounding thing twice.
Okay.
And the things that I was told was, one, I'm right where I need to be to help other people in the world.
Because my mate,
Um,
because my mate Cortez, and he just said you need to be where you need to be. Trust it.
yeah,
And whatever
yeah,
happens, go with the flow.
yeah.
Because you know you're on this journey now. You've got to move. You'll be told to
Mm,
move. Yeah, would that be fair?
yep,
Yep.
absolutely. I mean, I quit corporate in February.
Right.
Um, just by chance, and this is another long story, but I won't say the long story. I ended
We'll have
up
you back.
in
We'll have you back in 6 months, mate. You can write down what you want to talk about. Trust me.
Good. I ended up in disability support care,
Yep.
and now I'm looking at the NDIS. I'm looking at how it's being run, and I'm like, I could actually make a huge difference. I could help people with my corporate knowledge and this. And one of my friends said, with this extra stuff that the one that taught me about the grounding, she said, with the other stuff you've got, your intuition has gone through the roof and knowing how to help people and what they need. And she's like, you're probably actually going to completely transform the,
You're not going to know yourself.
yeah. And I said, that's the aim. Like, I'm going to keep the TikToks, I'm going to keep writing, I keep doing my art, but I still, there's
You're going
still
to
something else that I need to
find
fulfill.
something. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean, I've always been a mentor and a teacher all my life, right? So I see where you're going from, but you want to make a difference on a bigger scale on some way,
yeah,
and then the outlay of what we're doing now with the chats that I'm doing, TikToks which you're doing, you're getting that
yeah,
creative outlay, but it's also the creative outlay of what we've been through and giving and teaching that and go, right, have a look at what I've done. This is what I
yeah,
do. And the thing is, I'll ask you one question. How I don't tell everyone about what I do. I'll be
yeah,
perfectly honest with you. And there's a reason behind that because it's a case of I just let it happen. If I talk about it, it's that balance we talk about with Aaron Doherty, law of importance. And because we're coming from a people pleasing, look at me, look how good I am, ego, masculine, driven,
yeah,
instead of going, right, we're going to do this now. I'm doing this. Yeah, okay. I've been to do this great guy Harper today. Yeah. Oh, you got a show, have you? Yeah, yeah. Oh, right. Oh, God, oh, what else did you? Oh, God. I think it gets to a point in that way where we're actually giving our knowledge from there. What do you think? Well, how do you say
yeah,
you're still doing your TikToks, which we'll get up on the screen here, which would be great.
yeah.
So please follow him as many and share. I mean, I try to share as many as I can. I've got so much stuff going, but we see it on there. Where else do you think you're going with yours, Harper?
Um, just more if I can keep telling stories that resonate with people, that's the main thing in my art as well. And in my corporate life, like when I actually restart the corporate life where I can actually help people,
Yep.
that's now my purpose. It's, as you said, being very selective in what you tell people. I've learned that through this sort of, spiritual experience, is that like some people cope with it well and want to know more. Some people just do not cope with it well, and either don't believe you or don't understand or are just not there.
So I'm
Um,
looking at
but
it. I'm looking at your stuff now, right?
yeah,
And sharing it, and it's been a bit of a case of what you're doing is exactly that. You're showing exactly what people need to do. So I look at one of them now. I'm looking at Body Electric at the moment. I was also can feel the electricity coming off the screen and the old TVs. People
yeah,
have these experiences, and you're just
yeah,
being, and you're just starting out doing all those kind of things. The way I do it is I do it through messages, as you see my TikToks. I jump on
yeah,
and I chat from all around the world and go, right, this is what's going through my head. So I actually
yeah,
give a message, and that's my mentoring side of things that I've
yeah,
come in. So it's a wonderful thing that we're doing for the community, I think, and
definitely.
and it's yeah, and as I said, I'm just looking through it now, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to jump on Harper Black author, I'm looking at it now. Lots of comments, lots of stuff happening that they're and I guess it's an expression, isn't it? You don't have to do everything that people do. You're doing what you feel is the right thing to
Yeah,
do, and I think we can see what you've gone through that way. I said, look, comparing. I always like to compare what the messages because we've all got our own messages, as you can
yeah,
see. We've all got our own messages. So mine was I found out my enthusiasm and love for life and motivation to people. What I do can give that. And I think that's what you've got as well. So even if I
Yeah.
dress up as Robin from Batman, be the Melbourne's dynamic duo, I'm bringing happiness to people because there's not a lot. Look, it's very hard out there, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, definitely.
You
And
know,
it's underrated.
it is underrated. So I'm looking what you're doing it's amazing out. It's absolutely amazing out here getting so. And the common thing in here with Harper's one, mate, the smile is there, mate. The smile is there for a reason. So he said in part one about the teeth thing, but have a look. The smile's there, mate. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't beat that. And that's probably one of your powers. You want people to make people smile through your radiating smile. That's the way it is. Like my enthusiasm and stupidity, I get up to like chasing bears in bloody Canada and being an absolute, being an absolute clown or running around in my Robin outfit, think I'm going to save the world in Japan. People enjoy that because you're living your best life, and that's the way it is.
exactly.
Keep going? Sorry.
One of my favorite sayings is, I'm an idiot, but I'm not stupid. Like I love looking at the lighter side of life, and like I take being silly very, very seriously. But doesn't mean I'm stupid. And I'm like, if I can make someone laugh by something silly I do, like I would much rather that. And I don't care if someone actually thinks I'm stupid. I know I'm not. Like I know that I'm a smart person. But if I can give someone a laugh and joy and and people get that, but there's like the minority that will go, oh, like, oh, you're just being an idiot or whatever. And it's like, oh, yeah.
I call
Yeah,
myself the international idiot. Because I have this joke about with a friend of mine go, because her cat's the local idiot. I go, so what does your local idiot friend think of my bloody antics? He goes, you're a menace. You need a leash, honestly. What the heck? What the boy? And they're laughing. You are an absolute menace. They go, only you would go to a pro wrestling event in America, sit behind the commentary box with a bloody sign that we all know it's you, and stick it up. Of course it was. Okay. And my mates are texting me going, of course it is. Go, yeah. Are you at, yeah, I am. The message to me, are you? Yeah. Of course you are.
Love it.
And it's just like when I met Bret Hart, my hero, Bret Hart. And he was down here. He was actually in another town in Melbourne. And I was actually playing for Wasp, my band in Sydney. And my mate goes, oh, you got to come and see Bret. I put it in my head that I was going to go, I'm going to Canada. I'm going to Bret Hart's bar. And Bret Hart's going to be there. I'm going to do what I need to do to get him. And my mate rang me on the day I put the video up, and on the photo, he rang me and goes, mate, you told me 4 months ago you were going to do that. And that's the impact you have on people because you motivate them. The motivation we've got for being clowns, whatever we're doing, it's all about the fun and getting your vibration and frequency. On that note, can you tell us where they can find you, mate? Find us and tell us where they can find your book. Because amazing interview, man. Thank you so much for being on board.
Not a problem at all. TikTok, Harper Black Author. I'm really not good at Facebook or Instagram.
That's okay.
But I am there as well.
Yep.
And Amazon, look for Harper Black, Human Interaction Part 1 and Part 2.
Yep.
There are 2 more books coming, but
we'll get those pictures up. We'll get those pictures up on each of the episodes too at the end of the episodes, or we'll just stick them up so you can see where to get them from. Have a look at the covers. Harper, thank you so much for coming. It's been a while because I've been on been on my world Steve Irwin looking trip, whatever I want to call it. Thank you so much for being involved on a chat with Jay, and we'll have you back in 6 months. Any last words?
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much, and I really, really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. And if anyone's interested, as I said, I'm there on TikTok, and you'll just get more of this.
The laugh says it all, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it's all about. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been a chat with Jay, with Harper from Australia. And I always finish off. I met him in July, 2 days after my 50th birthday. My hero, Bret the Hitman Hart. I reckon he's going to know that I'm using his quote. I didn't use the Muhammad Ali ones or anything, which are great. But we use Bret's one because you always get up in the morning, be the best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. Thanks so much, Harper. This has been a chat with Jay, part 3. If you want to jump on, it's whitewarriorhealth@gmail.com. We'll get you on. We'll talk about your life, and you can make a difference in this world. that everyone needs. Thanks so much, Harper. We'll take care, and we'll see you soon, ladies and gentlemen, on A Chat with Jay.